Good evening to all present here on Zoom or on YouTube Live. I, Major General Hemant Kumar Singh, welcome you on behalf of the Military Literature and Cultural Festival Foundation for the Season 2 of the Military Literature Festival, Lucknow. We had a more than satisfying Season 1. A very special welcome to our esteemed panelist, that is Dr. Funsog Angmo from Nubra Valley, Colonel Ajay Raina from Jammu, and Major General Nitin Gadkari from Pune. Before we start, I wish to convey appreciation for our team members. We have been a solid and a committed team consisting of HK, Sharad Avasthi, BN Singh, Wasi Ahmed, Madhu Bhaduria, Jitendra Chauhan, Shalini Singh, Fasi Ahmed, Pradeep Kapoor, and Harish Asthana. We also thank our supporters and audiences who have helped us in many ways. We are also thankful for the financial support from our friends and veterans. This year, our theme is 75 years of independence and armed forces. In tune with our 7 verticals, we will take you to our 12 sessions spread till end of November, consisting of conversations on books, research works, issues, films, history, and softer aspects of military. We will also dive into a mix of history and present when we go to 1857, 1757, and come back to Ukraine. In our journey of last 75 years, we begin today with 1947 and 48, and also talk about one of our greatest soldiers. In mythological times, we had the concept of warriors, which consisted of Rathis, Maharathis, Atimaharathis, and Mahamaharathis. There are many examples of these when you go to the internet and search that. So where do we categorize a great soldier like Colonel Chewang, Rinchen, MVC Bar, Sena Medal mentioned in dispatches? I think we would call him Atimaharathi, with 4 wars and 4 gallantry awards. Many have won gallantry awards for short battles or encounters, but here we have a soldier who fought on and on from a young age of 17 years, 4 wars, always victorious, and he did great amount of bravery and valor. Besides the bullet, he was facing a treacherous terrain, icy wind, dizzy heights, and freezing temperatures. There was no infrastructure. Moderating today is Major General Nitin Gadkari, who has great credentials. He is an author, a painter, a thinker, a Ranji Trophy player with a century to his credit, a PhD in economics, Commandant of the College of Defense Management once, and he served in the areas of Turkuk and Chalunka. So what better a moderator than him? Over to General Nitin Gadkari.
Thank you, General HK. Firstly, let me congratulate the entire team of Military Festival Lucknow for working so hard, tirelessly, and put the season 2 into on the ground today, on the auspicious occasion of Gandhi Jayanti. I'm also delighted to be a moderator, and I thank you, General HK, and your team for giving me this opportunity. Today, we have 2 themes that we are going to take up. The first, as explained by General HK, is the book Lion of Ladakh, which is on Chewang Rinchen. And the second portion of this is to talk about the 1947 and 48 war, something about the strategic implications and compulsions. And to talk about these 2, we have with us Dr. P. Angmo, who is the eldest daughter of Colonel Chewang Rinchen. So who better than her to give us the human perspective of this entire story? It is very moving, and it is very touching, and it's very, very motivating. And also with her is Colonel Ajay Raina, who is the architect and the man behind writing this book. Dr. Angmo has also co-authored them. Let me introduce briefly these two personalities. First, Dr. Angmo. Dr. Angmo, like I said, is the first of the three daughters of Colonel Rinchen. Her early education was in Dehradun and Srinagar. She's a doctor by profession who did her MBBS from Government Medical College, Srinagar, and her postdoctorate from Government Medical College, Jammu, in pathology, if I'm not wrong. She was the senior resident and faculty in Government Medical College, Jammu for 18 years before she took up private assignments elsewhere. Now she's settled in her home in Nubra and stays with her daughter, son, and grandson. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Angmo, and welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Next, Colonel Raina. Colonel Ajay Raina is a military historian of a known repute, but he was commissioned in December of 90 in the Regiment of Artillery in 93 Field Regiment. He had a great military career going for him till he met with a landslide accident which cut short his professional life, but not before he had won a Sena medal in the valley with 6 RR. That is a Sikh Rashtriya Rifle Battalion. After his retirement, since military history, he is a Dogra of Punch origin and has the affairs of the valley very close to his heart. And hence, after retirement, he took up writing. Most of his books are about the 47-48 war. He has written 5 books about it, of which we will be discussing. Welcome to you, Colonel Raina.
Jai Hind, sir. Thank you, sir.
As you know, we're going to discuss these two themes. To give a preamble and set the term of reference of our discussion, the first theme would be the book Lion of Ladakh. We'll discuss it for 25 minutes. Both of you would be asked to respond. After the session of 25 minutes, we'll take on any questions, if any, from the audience on the book and Colonel Rinchen. The part 2 of this today's session would be a talk or a question-answer session on 47-48. We would not go about talking about information which is already existing in the domain. We'll try and keep it at a higher level, something that audiences probably have not heard before, and no better person than Colonel Raina to discuss on that. I will request the panelists if they could keep, as General HK has said, keep their answers short and crisp, by which we will be able to cover more ground. I would also request the panelists to keep your mobile phones with you. Should you go off the air by any chance, just give us a call. We'll try and get you back. As far as the viewers are concerned, you are requested to log in again with the password and the user ID that has been given. Thank you, and let's start session 1, which is Lion of Ladakh, the book on Colonel Rinchen. My first question comes to Dr. Angmo. Dr. Angmo, what does it mean to be the eldest daughter of a celebrated war hero like Colonel Rinchen?
For me, being the daughter of such a great soldier is a matter of pride, and I really feel very proud about it. And as in, whenever I meet people of the army background, I feel that, yeah, I'm part of that family, and I feel very proud, daughter of a brave soldier.
Thank you. We'll get more on your reactions on him. Before we get back to you, let me ask Colonel Raina to set that talk rolling as to why did he select Colonel Rinchen as a subject, and if he can give to our viewers some idea about this book, Lion of Ladakh, also giving out the 4 operations in brief. What did he do?
Good evening, everybody. Sir, when I got into this military history thing, I had 2 missions in life. First is to bring out the actual versions. Every story has a couple of versions, 3, 4 versions. When you come to military history, has so many versions floating around. So aim was to find out facts, put them on record, and leave it for future generations to read. And the related aspect to it was to write about people whom we've forgotten, unfortunately. People who've been our heroes. It could be Brigadier Rajendra Singh, who saved Kashmir. It was Brigadier Usman, who fought like tiger in Nashara Jangad. Brigadier Pritam Singh in Punch. And when you look at Ladakh, Brigadier Sherjang Thapa, and of course, Colonel Chewang Rinchen 4 times, unlike anybody else. So and J&K is my area of focus because it's one state where all actions have been fought till date since our independence. There's no war or conflict, whether we call it war or conflict. All these actions took place in J&K somewhere. So to that extent, other than the military history books which you mentioned about campaign, I had the privilege of co-authoring a book with General Gordon Jamwar recently on Brigadier Rajendra Singh. That happens to be the only book who's the savior of Kashmir, who gave us Kashmir or saved it for us, and we forgotten about him. And Colonel Rinchen is, a natural progression to of that series. And I'm right now working at General Zorawar Singh, another forgotten hero. So this is how it started. As regards books, you asked about it. The books actually covers, it is a book unique in the sense that out of 18 books I've written, this is one book which has military aspects in detail and has a touch of, that familial or human touch, like you mentioned. So I was fortunate to work with Dr. Angmo, and we were able to produce something which is a kind of a package. So it is a book which is going to interest not only soldiers or people who are interested in military history per se. It's a book which can also be read by our families, our children, and the larger audience who at times tend to think that Faujis are different. No, we are like anybody else. We have our own issues and we have our own problems in life while we fight for our country. This book covers the childhood of General Rinchen, carries on to how he volunteered in 1948. First one to raise hand when that time Major Prithi Chand, who had walked across Zila, asked for volunteers. Ladakhis being Buddhist had their issues with violence, but then he, at the tender age of 17, was intelligent enough, sharp enough to understand that if it is not now, it won't be ever. So we would have lost Nubra in any case. Losing Nubra actually means losing everything, and then there would have been no Galwan, no DBO, no Siachen, and it would have been a free highway between China and Pakistan. So it starts from there, and then we go on to his the 47 war in detail, where he largely fought in Nubra, except for one occasion when he was called to Leh, because we'll come to his style of how he looked at his life like an adventurer. And then we talk about 62, where his he did very well in 62. That is an untold story. And to my mind, if not PVC, MVC should have come in 62 also, because in the land not known to Indian Army, not known to anybody, he recce'd, he walked with 2 people. Then he went, it's fantastic. You have read this. 65, he was called to the eastern part because Chinese threat was building up while the world was focused on India, Pakistan. He was given this task. That must trust senior commanders had, that he's the guy who has to be there in Eastern Ladakh to look after that part. So he was kind of left out of action in the sense that he was not able to assault, or that was his style, or raid a post in 65, but his actions got him mentioned dispatches. And 71, of course, 71, 24 more hours and some flexibility on a part of our decision makers, and we would have probably gone to Skardu so it's a military campaign, his life as a soldier, his life as a family member, and what happened after retirement. We can speak about it later, sir. So this is a work which we are now today referring to.
Thank you, Colonel Raina. Thank you very much. And as you mentioned about 71 war, and I read that for 10 continuous days, he and his boys and his task force Dhal were fighting throughout. So my next question comes to Dr. Angmo. As a daughter, give us some sense of the insecurities you, your mother, your sisters would have felt. Your father was perpetually either fighting or doing some operations for the Indian Army. You must have gone through one hell of a lot of insecurity, anxiety. Insecurity may be a wrong word, anxiety. So can you give us some sense of that?
Yes, sir. My father was, he spent all his life at the borders, either guarding the borders at the China or the Pakistan border, or either fighting the war with the two enemies. So he was perpetually, throughout his life, he was at the borders. And when a war broke out, whenever he went for all these 4 wars, and whenever war breaks out, it is but natural that the family members, they go through a lot of anxiety, turmoil and insecurities. So, but surprisingly, with our family, it was not like that. We were a little bit too young to understand the developments on the war front, because we were quite young. But my mother was the pillar of strength for the whole family, and she was never very she was not afraid. Rather, she would spend most of her time in the puja room, and she would be all the time chanting prayers and praying for the safety of the soldiers on the border, and even for the safety of my father. And she would send prayer flags to the mountain top, especially Khardungla, for the safety and security of the soldiers. And our the neighbors and the relatives would come and try to comfort her, and she would say, no, no, don't worry, he's going to come back. And she had the faith and conviction that he is going to come back safe and alive. And this is what the faith and conviction she had. And even my grandmother, who was very old, she also, see, we are, devout Buddhist, and we are not even supposed to kill a fly. So she would send message to my father, son, don't kill the enemy. Just capture them and get them alive, but don't kill. So, but everybody had the faith and conviction that he would come back safe. And every time after every war, he came back without much grievous injury.
Thank you. I remember reading in the book that in the 71 war, his entire force came out without a single fatal casualty. And in fact, the co-commander General Sartaj came up to Nubra and attributed this singular thing to the dynamic leadership of Colonel Rinchen, if I'm not wrong. Okay, my next question to you, Dr. Angmo, is, can you describe to us how was your father? Was he a private person? Did he talk with you, share his adventures? Did he share his exploits with you? Just can you give us some sense of his, as a person?
Sir, he would not boast about his achievements all the time, but whenever people would come and ask him how what are his experiences during the war, he would tell the stories about how things went and how difficult it was. But that time we were too young to understand. And but then because that time sitting in the comfort of one's room in your drawing rooms and listening to these tales, one doesn't feel that much. But later on, when we actually saw those places in Turtuk and in the eastern Ladakh at Shayok, where I was invited to for the inauguration of the bridge. So that time I could understand. So how much of the terrain was so tough, and the weather was so inclement, and very tough terrain and very harsh, and there was no road, and he was a foot soldier, or except sometimes he would be on a horseback. So I can understand how it was during that time, so many years back. Now going in a car also was a very difficult thing for me last time.
Good. Okay. We get that. My next question comes to Colonel Raina. In your book, you have described the fighting qualities of Colonel Rinchen in fair amount of detail. But somewhere I felt that his leadership qualities have not come to fore. So my natural query comes is, what do you think of Colonel Rinchen? Was he a better soldier or a better leader? So if you can, put that in perspective with some example, it will be better.
Sir, actually, separating two aspects, it's very difficult, but I just tell you about his leadership, sir. We've been taught from day one, and we understand that their qualities like initiative, risk-taking appetite, being a role model, leading from front, initiative and aggressiveness, compassion, ability to train, motivate. If you look at all his operations, he was a system in himself, sir. Like when he raised Nubra Guards, he did it single-handedly. Of course, initial training was done by under Subedar Bhim Chand, Veer Chakra Bar. But thereafter, in 71, in 65, or even 62, he had a small group whom he trained. In fact, innovation, if leadership also relates to innovation, I think nobody can beat him. The way he said, okay, we'll wear these shoes, we'll replace our helmets, we'll have sattu and chunk instead of, the normal army rations where you need to cook. And
It's
yes, so the innovations which he did, in fact, it was carried out across Ladakh later on by Indian Army, because so if you look at his leadership, the textbook leadership qualities, he led from the front. His initiative was absolutely beyond doubt. Like I said, 71, given 1 or 2 more days, he would have reached Skardu. Like General HK was telling yesterday, that even later on, he said, give me 5,000 and I'll take Gilgit. So no dearth of initiative, bravery, no role model, yes. And he always led from the front. There was no operation where he stayed behind and said, you go. And innovation we already discussed. So to my mind, sir, he was a package. And
Yes.
a person who's got 2 MVC should have been much higher, that we can't really question. If he's a legend today, it's because of the very good combination of him as a soldier and a leader, sir. So
Yeah.
he scores everywhere.
It was a difficult question I asked. It's very difficult to choose. And that is why I guess I support General HK's argument that he is in the caliber and class of Atimaharathis, who are not only fighters, they're also leaders in their own respect.
Yes, no doubt.
I put you on a spot, but I'm glad that you answered it that way. Okay, my next question is to Dr. Angmo. Can you tell the viewers what is the sweetest memory you have of your father?
Sir, most of the time he was on the borders, and we hardly could get to be with, especially whenever there was a any celebration or anything, he was not available. So once I made him promise that you will come and celebrate my birthday in my boarding school, because I was studying in Dehradun. We all were studying there. So because I could see that all parents come and they celebrate the birthday of everybody's, and all their parents used to come. So we used to miss that. So I made him promise, and he said, okay, I'll come. But then as usual, like, he could not make it because he was raking on the Indo-China border that time, and he could not come. And I was very much disappointed. And yes, but then after 1 month, exactly after 1 month of my birthday, he came all the way to Dehradun to my hostel, and he kept his promise, and he celebrated my birthday with all my friends, and that was a very pleasant surprise, because normally he was never available, and I could see his weather beaten face and all sunburned, because he had come from that border. But still, I mean, that was a very pleasant surprise for me.
Okay, good, great to understand his personal qualities on that. My next question comes to Colonel Ajay Raina. Colonel Raina, having read your book, I get an impression that Colonel Rinchen was more like a maverick. People understand the term maverick more when you quote Tom Cruise in Top Gun. It was his code name also, but he also behaved like a maverick. So considering what you have written about his career and career progression, do you think he was a maverick?
For the want of better words, yes, sir. I mean, how do you expect a 17-year-old boy, sir? And first he's raising hand. We understand he was probably not even aware what is going to happen, what is going to face. Then having faced the adversity, there came a stage when Leh was under so much of threat that they had to withdraw everybody from Nubra. So all these 2 Dogra guys came back. And then he was left to himself, he and his uncle, 1 mule, few weapons, and couple of boxes of ammunition. When he insisted, no, I'll fight and go to Nubra and defend it. Now imagine, sir, a country attacking you and you have a band of 28 people under a youngster 17. So a man with so-called sane mind will never do it. So, and as you would have read, sir, at least 3 occasions, twice he resigned. He said, hell with it, I'm going. And 3rd time again, of course, we not mentioned much about it. So yes, but that's what soldiers are made of, sir. I mean, there's a difference between a person who's got 2 MVCs and 2 more decorations, and most of us who are, he was. That's
so
what
the
defines
maverick
himself.
term is used in a good manner in the
Yes,
sense
yes.
he had a
Positives.
mind of his own and he
Yes.
was a soldier of a unique kind. So my next question comes to you again. Do you think the Indian Army lost out on using the full potential of Colonel Rinchen, especially in his later part of his life?
Certainly, sir. I'm sure our gathering is learned gathering, so my point will be taken in right
So
spirit.
just explain the context in which I'm asking.
Yeah. So
it's all given in the audience, may take a little while to understand.
So person who was left in Turtuk, a territory which has been recaptured after 47. Population is now come from Pakistani, they've come Indian overnight. They had the apprehensions. And he was possibly the only person, being a Ladakhi, who was a hero, even among that part of population, who knew them, who could settle them, get them facilities, get the bare minimum. There's nothing. When Pakistan withdrew, they abandoned a village. So while he was engrossed in that godforsaken place with no communication, not even a radio transistor, and you are penalizing him for not making it in one of the papers called Current Affairs. Nothing can be, an army which can lose a VC winner in Uri, same campaign, Nan Singh. Do you send VCs and PVC winners to war? Again, no, because you can be lucky only once. And I am sorry to say, sir, like I said, we are all learned people. How many of our decorated soldiers actually go to highest ranks? This is again something to study. We have other decorations. It's a very harsh point to make. So I'm with you, sir. We were not fair. Firstly, as far as career progression goes, we were not fair as far as utilizing his capabilities. We have a horse in Gulmarg. We should have had a like Sergeant Battle School kind of thing under him. And in addition to troops getting trained there and locals, because kind of clout he had with locals, the people, the amount of trust people had, everybody in Ladakh would have been trained today. So then we didn't really have to worry when Galwan happened and we had to move everybody from hinterland. Ladakhis themselves would have been equipped and capable to fight, because he was a person who could have taken everybody on board, and his skills in mountain warfare, it's not mountain warfare, it's high altitude warfare. And I think nobody can match him. We lost out on that, sir. We penalized him. That is a very sad part. I say it again. I have no hesitation saying this. And
okay,
I only wish that we learn.
We will take it the way you say. Won't go further on that subject. My question comes to Dr. Angmo. Dr. Angmo, given the popularity that your father enjoyed in Nubra, Ladakh, do you think you would have made a good politician also?
Sir, I don't think so that he would be fit as a politician, because he was too outspoken. He would never mince his words, and he was very honest and very upright. I do not mean that all politicians are not honest. We have very great politicians in our own Ladakh, and very upright, very honest, and very articulate. And one of my father's younger brother, Shri P. Namgyal, had been a very seasoned politician, and he had been MP for 3 times and a former union minister. So he is a very revered person. But my father would not have been, because he was not made like politicians are slightly different.
Okay, I agree with you on that, surely. My last question for the session comes to you once again, Dr. Angmo. Do you think that your father got a fair deal from the Indian Army?
Yes, sir. My father spent his entire life on the borders and fighting the enemy on all fronts. And of course, the government did recognize his contribution by giving him Bar to Mahavir Chakra, Sena Medal, and mention in dispatches. But and we must not forget that he was just a schoolboy of 17 years when he volunteered for the, to defend the motherland at the young tender age of 17. And and he had to quit his education. He was studying in he got his basic education from Sumur village till class 8th, and then he went on to for class 10 to Leh, and that was all he was studying that time. And he had to quit his education to to defend the motherland. And yes, he was not able to get his due promotion because he could not complete his studies. And having, the education background of Dr. Virendra Verma, who had written a book on him, I quote him, and he said that Colonel Rinchen was unlettered academically and untrained in the corridors. He could have he missed out his chance of getting the promotion because of, as Colonel Raina mentioned, because he could not clear his party examination in the current affairs. And had he, had the government tried to help him out, he would not have been frustrated in the later part of his career, because that led him to a lot of frustration, and he took to heavy drinking, and that led to his early death. So I really feel that though he was awarded, but he was a little bit demoralized in the later part of his career.
We can understand your sentiments on that, Dr. Angmo, but I understand that now the 14 Corps has dedicated your home in Sumur as a heritage site for Colonel Rinchen. Would you just tell us, our viewers, something about it?
So yes, our house was unattended for a long time because father had shifted to Leh in the later part of his life. And then the house was, then my brother who was to get a young age because of some motor neuron disease. So then there was nobody to attend to the house, and the house was in a very bad shape. And then General Y.K. Joshi, he was the Corps commander, and I approached him and I requested him, kindly do something about our house because it's in a very bad shape. And he was so kind, and he the three Ladakh scouts headed by Colonel Srivastav, they did up the house, and they renovated the house, and now it has been converted into a museum, and that is called Colonel Rinchen's Heritage Abode. And now a lot of tourists come, and now it has become a tourist attraction, especially for the army families. They come, and they it is as if he was living there. It's just like originally how it was. So I'm very grateful to the Indian Army, especially General Joshi and Colonel Srivastav and the three Ladakh scouts.
Thank you. That's a very nice dedication you have given to the Indian Army, because I just wanted to bring out that yes, Indian Army did have a soft corner for him in some respect. Yes, they might have missed out on something. Yeah, Colonel Raina, you want to say something? Yeah.
Sir, she is very humble. She won't bring it out. All of us who've been to Ladakh would remember there used to be a cafe on top of Khardungla Pass. It was called Colonel Rinchen Cafe. It had his life history written for anybody and everybody who would come and see. Unfortunately, recently the cafe was renovated, and in the name of widening that road, that board was taken off. The name of the cafe has been changed. So I think through you, sir, I would, on her behalf, I'll appeal to the people concerned that glory should be restored. That Khardungla, which he crossed at the age of 17 twice with mule in tow, deserves his name. Okay. That's all I want to say.
I think with this, we'll wind up the session 1. General HK, if there are any questions, you can ask the audience. I don't see anything in the chat box. So,
if you allow me, I will say a few things and also ask a question from Dr. Angmo. I was privileged to spend 4 days with Colonel Rinchen in 1984. I traveled with him to various places in Leh, Ladakh, Darbuk. It was a fascinating time learning. I was a young man. Few things I will share. He told me, HK, he's telling me 1984, I am the last man who will get you Gilgit and Skardu. I could have got it earlier also, but even today, if you give me 5,000 people of my choice, I will get you. There will be no casualties. I know where to go, which way to go, and I've been there. So this was one part which was very fascinating. And this also gets linked to what Colonel Raina was asking in your question, whether we really utilized his services. I think it was too gross not to utilize his services. When somebody has such immense potential at the age of 17, he could have been the general of Ladakh, you know. Second thing which I saw was his human touch. He was winning hearts and minds of people at that time also. I went with him to a few villages where he helped out the poor. So it was not, he was not an ordinary man. Uh, I will ask Dr. Angmo that uh, you must have had some emotional times and moments. There were times when he was forgotten in between. There were times when he did not pass his party and he was not being given his rank. Uh, what do you have to say about your tough times and such a brave hero of India? Uh, and how does the family feel when he is being forgotten or his memorials are being forgotten? Dr. Angmo?
So yes, as I told you that because he lost out on his, he could not clear the one examination. So he lost out on his promotions, and he could see his juniors climbing up the ladder and he was left behind. And he felt very frustrated and we could feel his pain. And he was quite frustrated. And because of that, he took to heavy drinking and we lost him at a very young age of 67. And now we see that his friends are still alive and kicking, and it really hurts us. So it is my request to everybody that, like all the people at the helm of the affairs, that brave people should be, given their dues, in spite of, because he was not a very, he was academically, he didn't have that academic background. So that was very, we are still suffering because he went away very early in life. And we are left alone.
You're not alone, Dr. Angmo. I can assure you that through this medium and through Military Festival Lucknow, your voice would be heard. I'm sure General HK is already hearing it. Is there any other questions that are coming from the audience?
Dr. Angmo, just one more point. Of course, there is a definite case of recommending Colonel Rinchen for the honorary rank of a general or a brigadier, even if it comes posthumously. I think that much this country can do. Tell us if there is another book you mentioned about one Mr. Verma, or is there somebody who reached out to you for a film or something like that?
So a book on father had already been written when he was alive. That is written by Dr. Virendra Verma, and he had been the former principal of NDA. And he had written about him, and the book was called A Living Legend. And but by the time the book was published and when it was out, my father had passed away in 1997. So then he renamed the book as a legend in his own time, Colonel Chewang Rinchen. So the book has been narrated by my father himself. And he sat with him, and it was literally his own, narrations. And that book could not be reprinted because the author also passed away. And a few copies are lying with me. And yes, sir. And the answer to the second question you asked about the movie, nobody so far approached us for any biopic on him, movie on him. But yes, many books are being written on him. And another one is coming up, that is Sentinel of the Himalayas by, I'm not remember, Mr. Chaudhary. So it will be coming up very soon. And then certain books are, then there's a comic which is coming up, which is written by Rishi Kumar. So these things are coming up, and I hope the other book will also be released. But many books, today itself, Major Saab came and he also was wanting to write a book, and he came to speak to me in the morning.
Over to you, General Gadkari.
Yeah.
There are no questions.
No questions. Okay, since there are no questions.
Only thing is, I think people have not read the book and people are not aware. So when they read these two books, and
I guess even if some people can think about questions, we can ask the same later also, because
we have time.
Time for that. So, Dr. Angmo, now I'll get into a session one-on-one with Colonel Ajay Raina, but I request you to be there, because in the end, maybe we get back to you for something on Colonel Rinchen also. So for the viewers, we are now into the session 2 of this first inaugural session, part 2 of the first inaugural session, where I'll be talking to Colonel Ajay Raina about 1947-48. Now, a lot has been written about this, and so much has been written and read, but most of it is something which is very, very, what should I say, narrow in its narrative. Either the preamble or the aftermath. There are lots of issues even around which have not been discussed. Me and Colonel Ajay Raina will try and, if we can, bring out some of these issues which are hidden and not spoken about. So my first question to you, Colonel Raina, is that did the British had pre-decided on the partition of India much before even the Muslim League of Mr. Jinnah asked for it? If yes, then what were the reasons?
A very good and sensible question, sir. Unless until you understand this, because people look at 47-48 India versus Pakistan, which wasn't. Pakistan was, I mean, unfortunate for them that they got embroiled into a conflict which was planned and designed by British. Coming to your question, sir. Sir, when Great War, the Great Game began towards middle of 19th century, or just before, it's about 1840s. If you remember, same time China was being, the treaty being signed with China by British. After that, Opium 1, Opium 2, and Boxer Day, all those things happened. China was actually put on back foot. And here, in that time, General Zorawar has just passed away, and treaty was signed, Chishul Treaty. Things were moving. At the same time, the Russians were coming down south and headed towards warm waters of the Persian Gulf, and of course, oil field of what we call the Middle East today. Britishers who were ruling the world had their own mind very clear. In 1841, when they had a fight with or war with the Sikhs, and they knew that J&K was given to them, and then it was given to that time Raja Gulab Singh. They knew they couldn't control this territory, because Jammu people, the people of hills, where even Sikhs used to take shelters when Afghan used to invade Pakistan, they were warriors, and they remain warriors today. They knew they couldn't control it. Only Dogra could have controlled it, so it was given. Pointing to your question, sir, in 1919, there's a note is being mentioned in my next book, where I'm co-authoring with one celebrated author called Shiv Kunal Verma. In 1919, Britishers carried out a kind of they took stock of the situation, and they said that giving J&K to Gulab Singh was a mistake. So this mistake they're realizing after almost 80 years. And they said, whatever may happen, this part of the country, basically they're looking at Gilgit, Pamirs, because Pamir was the place where we were expecting to fight Russians at some point of time. Russians had beaten them in Crimea earlier. Napoleon was threatening to come down. So British always looked at Russians as competitors, though they fought the wars later on as allies. But their mistrust continues even today. So it was that scenario that Britishers said, okay, we will break India into two parts, because this leadership of India coming up, Mahatma Gandhi was rising up that time. They looked at Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel, and others as people who were stubborn, who at some point of time will stand up. If given independence or freedom, they will say no to Britishers at some point of time, because India was too big a country for them to manage. So they were looking for a partner, a smaller, weaker nation, which could be manipulated, and through which they could get access to Gilgit and Pamirs whenever they wanted. Because that time Afghanistan was a buffer state, we all know, in 1920s. But they were right in anticipating that there will be clash, and the clash will take place. And if you look at situation today, sir, how Central Asia is now suddenly on the boil. So the people who ruled the world at one point of time had that foresight. So this 47-48 was a British ploy. Partition was, it is a misnomer. People at times say, Savarkar said this. Savarkar was not even born when Sir Syed started this. That was, demands were so many, sir. Sikhs wanted an independent country. There's so many people who wanted so many things, but they were not given. They gave what they had made up their mind in 1919. That document happens to was in the personal custody of late Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, sir. My co-author, whose book I am mentioning, I've been monitoring with, he almost saw it. Almost. It's a very interesting thing when the book comes out, you can read, sir. And then, so in 1919, Britishers had said, much before independence. And there's a reason. If you look at 1935, Britishers taking Gilgit on lease for 60 years. So firstly, they had no mood to leave for half a century at least, till 1995. And all the drama which they created in Kashmir to put pressure on Maharaja Hari Singh through 1931, that the famous incident which was celebrated as Martyrs' Day, unfortunately, which should have been anti-terrorist day to start with. And now the holiday has been scrapped after 370 was removed. So all those things were done just to pressurize Maharaja Hari Singh so that he says, okay, take Gilgit and leave me at peace. So if you look at the whole gambit, Britishers, it was British ploy to divide the country, have a smaller manageable nation called Pakistan, to have access to Pamirs and Central Asia, to fight Russian at some point of time. So this was a larger game, sir.
Okay, I'll stop you here, Kalana, because there is a lot of literature on this, and the more you read, the more you will go inside. So whether the theory that you're propounding is true or false, but there is a line of thought which goes along with what you're saying. But I will come to what reality happened on ground and the war of 1947-48. At the end of it, as a military historian, do you think we lost India or Pakistan? Who lost more and who won more?
Okay, sir, before I answer this, the book which I wrote on Kashmir conflict, it was somebody, very senior officer, wrote the foreword. So it was studied by MO and MI before the clearance was given to him, not to me. I was veteran that time. So the facts which I put out in the book, and now it is part of party syllabus, is because of a thing that what I am actually saying is backed up by some very solid evidence. So we leave that part. It's not one of the theories, sir. This is the fact. I'm very proud of the thing. Anybody can challenge and we can speak about it for hours. When you look at who lost and who won, sir, that's why I brought British first. Let's see who all were involved, who had stakes. It was British, India, Pakistan, then leaders like Pandit Nehru and Jawaharlal, these are people who are Mountbatten, and USA. So basically 5 agencies who had some kind of stakes in this war. As far as British are concerned, their dream of handing over Kashmir to Pakistan could not be materialized because of action taken by Indian Army when they landed on 27th of October. So Britishers had a half-hearted kind of a win, half-hearted kind of a, but one thing which they wanted to keep this pot boiling, which they succeeded. Coming to Pakistan, Pakistan's dependence on Kashmir, of course, for waters is one part. Second is emotional dependence. Jinnah Saab wanted Eid to be celebrated. He wanted to come to J&K for Eid on 25th of October 1947, and he wanted a cottage in Kashmir, which Maharaja Hari Singh had said, no, I'll not give you. So their dream of, like they say, moth-eaten Pakistan they got in the bargain. India. Now, there are 2 ways of looking at what India got, sir. We lost a big chunk of Jammu and Kashmir. That is a line in the stone. I mean, there's no argument. We lost it. What we won, what we earned out of it. Had we not got what we have today, the part of Jammu and Kashmir, the ball game to northern borders would have been totally different. Imagine that link between China and Pakistan with no J&K. I mean, whole J&K going to Pakistan. So India recovered. In fact, we didn't capture. We recovered what was almost lost at some point of time. But in that, there are many debates which say, did we do right thing by stopping our operations? And if you look at that context, I have only one thing to say, that there was a point in time in this operation on 14th of November 1947 when Uri was taken, and had the operation progressed for another 24 hours, Muzaffarabad would have been taken and India would have actually won the battle, so-called one.
48.
RO territory. So they would have, this is 14th November 47. The allegation which comes, I mean, we can talk about it later. That has certain other angles attached to it, both to political leadership, military leadership, and assets, or whatever we had in terms of. So to summarize what you're saying, sir, everybody got something. Pakistan got something, Britishers got something, India got something. Who lost out the most was the peace in the area, which continues today and which keeps on taking toll on Indian Army, our civilians, our brothers across the faith and religion, and of course KPs who suffered the most later on. It's all thanks to 1947.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. And a lot of people will be asking one question also. I saw that Jawaharlal Nehru's, Prime Minister Nehru's decision of taking the matter to the UN and declaring the ceasefire on 1st of January, accepting the ceasefire on 1st of January 1949. Not in hindsight, but from his perspective, at that point in time, was it a right decision? And added to this is, was shortage of troops an issue for taking that decision, in your opinion?
Sir, Pandit Nehru went to UN as early as January 1948. 49 was the ceasefire. So if you look at the situation in 1948, starting, that was winter time, operation had been seized. So last operations which happened was in the month of November of 1947. Like I said, that was the time, had our troops been allowed to go ahead from Uri, due west, instead of them being told to turn south and go to Punch, which was, I belong to that area, so my family came to, they saw it firsthand. Punch was under threat, but not that much of threat. Punch could have held on by itself by almost for 1 month, because J&K forces, there were 3 battalions in that area and they were doing very well. They could have held on. We must accept that Pandit Nehru, who was that time nominated Prime Minister, person with no experience, had a lot of influence of Lord Mountbatten, and for reasons best known to him, had agreed to appoint Mountbatten as the head of so-called Defense Committee for War, which should have been headed by the Prime Minister. And the logic is that Mountbatten, being a soldier and a career military leader, should head, and that's where we lost the game. We did what Britishers wanted, because if India were to take back Muzaffarabad, hypothetically speaking, then the British dream of giving J&K to Pakistan and keeping themselves contained for water and everything would not be materialized. Shortage of troops issue came up only in 1948, later half. Now what happened is, because Nehruji went to UN, and then for July onwards, UN teams started coming to India and Pakistan. And if you read the MOD book, the official history of J&K, operations of 48, July, the orders were passed to stop offensive. July 1948, which Indian Army, like a good army, obeyed. Pakistan threw to wind. And from July to October, November, December 48, there was so much of build-up. Like Uri, 161 Brigade was in Uri. In November or December of 47, when I said we could have gone anywhere and taken whatever we wanted back, it was the only brigade being, and nothing in front. 1 year later, there was a 7th Infantry Division of Pakistan with 1 brigade facing our brigade in Uri, 1 brigade displacing us from across Thitwal, throwing us back towards this side of Thitwal in Gurez Valley, and 1 brigade kept reserve as Muzaffarabad. So your point of our troops to troop ratio, 1, overall shortage of troops, all these things happened in 48, sir. And it all happened after we went slow on operations. Can you believe it? Air Force was told to create a safe belt of 12 kilometers in Mirpur, Bimber, Mirpur, Punch area, not to fly in 12 kilometers zone bordering Pakistan, which was our area, where our troops are, our civilians are getting massacred. 60,000 people in Mirpur, sir. Mirpur Rajouri lost 60,000 people. And our Air Force are not supposed to allowed to fly. So yes, to that extent, sir, I agree. It was more of willpower in 47 wrong decisions in 47 when we couldn't capture JNK or take JNK back. In 48, it was shortage of troops. It was superior firepower on. They put everything there. So they had 5.5 inch guns in Uri, and we had one field battery, one mountain battery, the JNK mountain battery. And that's the reason we lost something called Pandu. A very big battle happened, and it's a long story. I will cut it short. So it was wrong decision in 47, end of 47, and limitations in 48. Two different things, sir.
Okay, we probably some question answer session, and that shortage of troops can come up.
So
I have another observation, and that is also meant for the US, that during this conflict, ironically, the two armies were led by two British officers, Douglas Gracie and Rob Foster, if I'm not wrong. So, and it is what I read is both of them were on a telephonic conversation with each other, exchanging notes every evening when the two armies were fighting each other. And it is a belief that the Indian army lost more because of these powwow than the Pakistani army, because the Indian army did not allow British officers to fight for them, whereas the Pakistani army allowed. And there's so many other things to it. So what, in your opinion as a military historian, do you think this was a one-off situation, or do you think it was a deliberate ploy, or do you think India lost more because of this particular setup?
sir, not only army chief of two countries, naval chief and air force, all 6 officers are British in 1947. 3 of theirs, 3 of ours. Then the Supreme Commander was Field Marshal Washington, who was sitting in India.
Yeah.
So when I blame Britishers or pointed Britishers, this is the reason, sir. They played it like a game of chess. They were talking to each other every day. There's no doubt about it. They didn't want the conflict to spill over into Punjab, like it happened in 65 when we gave it back to them, because any threat to Lahore would have turned the tables around, and we had the capability in other part of country. Of course, there was shortage of troops in J&K, I agree. But Punjab, the migration was happening, population was migrating, a lot of force was deployed to keep the peace, and Lahore could have been taken in matter of few hours because Pakistan had nothing. Comparatively, what we got out of the British army, our share was much bigger. Troops were being exchanged, that's all right. But the fact remains, these 3 gentlemen, Field Marshal and 2 chiefs of Commander-in-Chief and Navy and Air Force. Of course, Pakistan didn't operate Air Force, so we can take it out. But all these guys, 6, 7 commanders were all British. They made sure that they will divert troops, like they diverted from Uri to Punch instead of Uri to Muzaffarabad. They kept the temperature at a level where they're comfortable with. They didn't want the thing to flare up. They didn't want India to regain everything. And we kept on playing in their hands. Now, I just give you examples, sir. Before Gracie, the commander-in-chief of Pakistan Army was General Sarvi.
Yeah.
So 15th August is the date of independence. We all know 14th in Pakistan was more of a technical requirement. It was not that they wanted one day before us. So it's 15th August. 16th August, boundary award is announced, when actually people come to know that whether Gurdaspur is going to Pakistan, is going to India. 2 days later, on 18th of August, an operational order is signed by General Sarvi. 18th of August, sir. A nation has just been born. अभी यही नहीं पता कि कौन सा गांव इंडिया में रहेगा, कौन सा पाकिस्तान में रहेगा, out of British India. On 18th of August, General Sarvi signs the operational order for Operation Gulmarg, which is read by later General Kalkat, the beautiful book he wrote, Far Flung Frontiers, which we Indians don't somehow, we always feel that Westerns only write good history. He with his own eyes saw that order, and that order said 22nd October, we will invade Kashmir. So now you tell me, sir, when Britisher Commander-in-Chief is signing a operational order on 18th of August, is there anything left to the doubt that who was playing this game? And with all the chiefs and everybody, decision makers being British, they played the way they wanted to play. And our leadership played into their hands. That's a very unfortunate part. There's another issue which comes to army leadership. Yes, our Nehru Sahab told us go left, go south instead of going west. Then there are many who say there have been so many instances in the history where military commanders have got up and they disobeyed the political leadership, especially in this case where political leadership was not even mature. They have just been born. So that is another debate. Why somebody very high in Indian army hierarchy, army commander or div commander, didn't get up and say no.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough, Colonel. And the audience have got your views, and
So,
there are contrarian views, but we will leave it at that. My next question to you comes that how close did we come to lose Leh and Ladakh? And did Colonel Rinchen's defense of Nubra Valley play an important role in this? Give us this perspective of the story of Leh. And then I'll come to, the induction of tanks after that.
so Nubra and Leh, one was Indus axis and one was Shayok axis, as you understand. No, the operations this side progressed late because between Pakistan and Ladakh was a garrison of Skardu being held by that time Lieutenant Colonel Sherjang Thapa, who fought it out without any assistance, because assistance could never reach. We all know that histories. But finally, when they came, Leh and Nubra came under threat almost at the same time. So the credit of saving Leh goes to, firstly, the people who started this, the team of Major Prithi Chand and Captain Kushal Chand and Subedar Bhim Chand, who were all related, and two got MVC and Bhim Singh got 2 VRCs in that operation. When they crossed Zuzila in the thick of winters, and of course, the civil engineer, Mr. Sonan Narbu, Padam Shri, who went with them and he constructed the Leh airfield. Now, this is a macro picture. When you come to Nubra Valley, like I mentioned earlier in the first talk, Nubra was being defended by Subedar Bhim Chand. Under him was a gang of 28 boys with Colonel Rinchen. But there came a point when there was so much of threat against Leh that all troops were withdrawn back to Leh. And Colonel Rinchen was left alone, that time a young Rinchen, no rank, nothing, not even having uniform. So he fought it out. To that extent, defending Leh, Nubra, and keeping it kind of as a launch pad for later operations, the whole credit goes to Colonel Rinchen, there's no doubt. Leh, of course, then Colonel Parab came and who was appointed Leh commander, and those things, of course, that is a different story. Yes, I agree. Nubra is now this Colonel Sherjang Thapa, had he surrendered or had his garrison fallen earlier, then we would have lost Ladakh. There's no doubt about that. As early as maybe December 47.
Okay, good. I tend to agree with you. But a lot of claims are made that had we given an open hand to the army, would have captured territory up to Gilgit-Baltistan and towards Azad Kashmir. How do you reconcile to this thought process, to the fact that we were then facing a shortage of troops? Could we have gone further and actually captured had the army not been stopped in 1949? So these are two contrarian views which are coming. So can you just,
sir? Like I said, sir, there are two timelines. 1947, POK could have been taken back. Muzaffarabad could have been taken back on 16th of November. There's no doubt about that. Which was the ploy, whatever happened. That time, we had only one brigade, 161, with 3 battalions chasing the invaders. The invaders were running like dogs. If you read Akbar Khan's book, who planned all this, that the actual story also comes out. So that was one part of having done the mistake there. Gilgit-Baltistan was a different ballgame altogether. Gilgit-Baltistan didn't have a single Pakistani soldier when Gilgit switched over to Pakistan under very capable Major Brown, who was awarded both by British and Pakistan later on. So since they took Gilgit, they put governor under arrest and they massacred the 50%, the Sikh component of 6 Jacrif there. So it was taken, and it's only because of Colonel Thapa that he held on. Now coming back to recapturing Gilgit. So there were 3 big attempts made to link up with Skardu garrison via Kargil. So Brigadier Fakir Singh led one, and there's a very sad story. So all 3 columns failed with lot of casualties to us, because they were facing, unlike these so-called tribals which were led by Pakistan Army in Jammu and Kashmir, in Gilgit area they were being faced by Gilgit Scouts. Gilgit Scouts was a very well-trained, firstly, sons of the soil, and Britishers had trained them, Tochi Scouts, Gilgit Scouts, Chitral Scouts, with a eyes on Russians. So that is the difference. So it was they gave us tough time. The Skardu siege of Skardu was also led by the Prince of Chitral. So now you connect, sir, kahan Chitral, kahan Gilgit, or kahan Skardu. So taking back Skardu could have been possible during initial stages of siege, when Colonel Thapa went there and he kept on requesting to supply him. There was an airfield next to the fort where he was sitting. We didn't send anything. Only once aircraft went, it bombarded own troops and came back. So Skardu, if we say that had we had more troops, no, a lot of troops were sent. The reinforcement you sent were almost 2 battalions plus battalion, almost 1 battalion next time, they couldn't. So Skardu was a stalemate because of terrain and Gilgit scouts. POK, I told you, sir. 47, we did a blunder. 48, no. 48, a division sitting in front of us. And we had how many, sir? Complete Kashmir and Ladakh had 16 battalions total. Now look at this frontier of 400 kilometers, the terrain. We tried our best. In 48, we were fighting. You know, when July 48 orders came that offensive operations will not be undertaken, only permissions given were link up with Punch, link up with Leh, and link up with Skardu. Skardu fell, story closed. Punch link up was carried out, and Leh was linked up later on. All other operations of retrieving our territory were actually banned in 48 July. Now we can say that troops भी कम थे, Pakistan की army भी आ गई, they had bigger guns and all. So it was a combination of political pressure and limitation of resources in 48, which made sure that we couldn't get back what we lost.
Okay, so from what I gather from you is the whole war was not as simple as it looked right from the beginning, and there were opportunities lost at various times. Opportunities came, probably things became more difficult to achieve. So that beats the common, the common thought that prevails, that had we been given an open hand, we would have done it. We probably would have done it had it come in the right time and the right place. So thanks a lot, Colonel Raina. I think our viewers would have got some insight into issues which have not been so openly discussed. I do not know, but I feel they have not been so openly discussed. And for those who want to read more, they are always, your books are always there. But before I close this session, my last question comes to Dr. Angmo. Dr. Angmo, are you there? Dr. Angmo? Is she gone? Dr. Angmo, are you there? Yeah. So my last question comes to you because you are our showstopper. You already told our viewers that nobody has approached you for a biopic for Colonel Rinchen. After this, and with the wave that is taking place in the country, I'm sure sooner or later that biopic will materialize. But if it does, which is the actor you think who can play Colonel Rinchen?
I just cannot.
Give it a try. No, there are so many young actors who are coming from the East these days. But in old time, maybe Danny would have fitted the role. I'm not too sure. But,
maybe.
And my last question, which always I thought I will ask you is, were you ever angry with your father that he never gave you the time that you deserve?
Yes, when we were young, as all our siblings, we used to complain that father was never there whenever there's somebody's birthday or a family get together or a festival in the, he was always on the borders. So we all would always complain, what is this? Like, what sort of a father he is? And then, yes, when we grew up, and then we realized, and he used to keep telling us that for me, my role for any soldier, a soldier's life is, the soldier is married to the nation.
Profession.
To his profession. So what he used to say that the foremost duty of a soldier is to guard the nation, and the family comes second. So he would always say that nation comes first. And then later on, when we grew up, we realized that what he was saying was correct. Otherwise, initially, yes, we were very much like we used to say, he's never around.
Thank you very much, Dr. Angmo. And I think with this, we come to the end of the 2 sessions, and let me thank Dr. Angmo, who in the first part very vividly brought out what Colonel Rinchen was as an individual, a human being, a father, and a person who's loved by everybody in Nubra Valley. And for those who do not know, there is a statue of Colonel Rinchen which stands in the middle of the Leh market, a full-size statue, and there is also a park named after him in Leh, where he was finally, laid to rest, so cremated. I think next time when we go to Leh, we will look for these 2 important landmarks. And Colonel Raina, thank you very much for firstly writing such a wonderful book and giving an insight into Colonel Rinchen's operational ideas, leadership ideas, also his personality as a maverick. And then so in detail discussing the 47-48, I've never had a more invigorating discussion on 47-48 than what I've had today. So I learned as much as I'm sure the viewers had.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And if there are any questions.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank Brigadier Rajinder Singh and Colonel Raina, who literally coaxed me into, being part of this book. And mainly he has been the main, the main hard work has been done by Colonel Raina. And I'm very grateful to him. I could only give him the inputs of his, personal life and the family background. And I'm very grateful to Brigadier Rajinder Singh and Colonel Raina, for bringing out his story and telling it to the, the nation. Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's been a privilege, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
There are a few questions.
Yeah, Colonel HK, you can take it on.
Okay. First, of course, is nations first. So very well said, Dr. Angmo. Also, you told me once upon a time that your grandmother used to tell Rinchen when he was young that you're going to fight the war. Don't kill the enemy, you capture the enemy.
Yes.
Because the soldier is not your enemy, it is the leaders who are making them fight there. So well said. You have some great sense of values of patriotism and nationalism and humanism, human qualities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
There are some interlinked questions. So I'll just put them in one perspective and then Colonel Raina can answer those. One is from a veteran who has fought in Batalik in Sri Lanka, Colonel Baduria. One is from S. Singh. There was a great game going where Britishers were playing and others were, some were being played and some were collaborating with Britishers. So this is the scenario you explained. So within that, one says that shortage of troops, but we had lakhs of war veterans from World War II. They could have been recruited, and when the nation goes to war, everybody pitches in, there is a will. So it is a myth that there was a shortage of troops, whether on day one or day light, or whether we could have extended. This is one part. Second is, why do we stop winning armies short of their objectives? This has happened in a few wars. And isn't the leadership bound, morally bound, to protect and secure its legitimate boundaries? Like J&K came to us on 26th October. So it was our job, moral responsibility to secure the boundaries. So why do we keep doing it? And at the same time, we keep returning those places. So this is a broader question. I combined 2-3 questions together. Colonel Raina.
Sir, you summed up very well. And national leadership, when we say leadership, we had only one person to speak about, that Pandit Nehru. In addition to influence of Mountbatten, which he had, he also had influence of Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah, who told him, in fact, Kashmiris define Kashmir as an area between, after you cross Banihal Tunnel and that origin of Jhelum River, Nag, right till Baramulla. Thereafter, the language, culture, everything changes. Uri, I'm sure those who've been in Uri, they speak Pathari, my language of Punch. So Kishnaganga Valley, all Uri, Punch is taken. Punch, of course, is part of Jammu. So Sheikh Abdullah prevailed upon Pandit Nehru, saying that even if we go and capture Muzaffarabad, the population there doesn't know me. I don't know them. They followed it there. And by the way, they're braveries. And this see how dirty thing becomes when we put religion also. So there were Deobandis in Kashmir and Barelvis in Punch and Muzaffarabad elsewhere. So they said they don't know us. I don't know them. So as long as we had taken Uri back and secured Kashmir Valley, we're all right. Now, how illogical that is, you already pointed this. Not only that, sir, let's see later years. We have fought 3 wars with Pakistan and a conflict of 99. Our line of communication running from Pathankot right till Leh, sir, via Kargil, remains prone to interference even today. See how close our line of communication is to the so-called working boundary or international border and line of control. So we didn't even wake up later on, sir. And just to tell you something very interesting, in 1963, a proposal was made by Government of India. Mr. Swan Singh was sent to Pakistan with a map where we had decided and agreed to hand over complete Kishnaganga Valley to Pakistan to settle this thing. If somebody wants, what is the source? One can get in touch with me. So this leadership is not only blundered in 47, they kept on blundering, sir. They have done it repeatedly. In Kargil, orders came that don't cross the line of control again for reasons not known. When our territory is lying other side of the line of control, why shouldn't we take it back, sir? So this disease continues. There's no explanation, because had it happened once, we could have said, okay, 47 pata nahi tha, we were immature. We never consolidated our position later wars, including 99. It's unfortunate reality, sir. I think we live with it. This is how it is, sir.
There is a question from Anil. He's raised his hand. Can you have you sent your question in your chat book?
Yes.
You can ask General Gadkari.
Yeah, okay, I'll read out. Our country's tragedy has been that the political leaders have tried to run military operations without our military leaders standing up to wrong orders, in which we not only lost territory, but also left ulcers in J&K till date. Unfortunately, history has kept repeating itself. In some manner, I think he's answered that question, but if Colonel Raina wishes to...
This question is answered. We will, because we are running short of time. It is a very pertinent question, and this question needs to be debated. The point is that in matters of security, one can't be naive. You know, if somebody else is playing the chess game and you cannot be sitting idle, and you cannot have a situation that somebody across is preparing his armies and divisions and putting them across, and you are not doing the same thing. So with that, we will be coming to an end for today's session. Firstly, thank you so much, General Gadkari, for this brilliantly executed conversation. So many points have come out. Thank you so much. And thank you, Colonel Raina. You have really done some great amount of research, and your convictions are very strong. You came from Bagh, and Mirpur is very dear to you. We will be talking about it sometime later, because it's happened during the war period. And that time also, it was a moral responsibility we could have avoided. So all our best wishes to you for your research,
thank you, sir,
for writing this book, and for more and more books.
Thank you, sir. So kind of you.
And it is so nice to see the younger officers are now writing and talking the truth, which is coming to the public knowledge. And Dr. Angmo, thank you so much. I know that you have so much to talk about, and I also know that this is your first visit to Zoom. So I think you have done a great, creditable job. I would trade my life to be son of General Rinchen or to be brother of yours, because when you fight, You fight for the nation, you fight with bravery, you fight with courage, and you fight for it, and you fight with the intelligence and cunning. And nothing is impossible for you. That was Colonel Rinchen, the great Atimaharathi. My prayer will be that he is honored with greater rank, even posthumously. With that, we thank you, audiences, and we move on to our future sessions. Next one is on the 9th, where we will be talking about 1846. Another greatly researched book has come out by Pramod Kapoor of Rowley Books. And then we move on and on. As we keep moving, we'll be sharing a program. Thank you so very much from the Lucknow Military Literature Festival. Have a great evening.